it's just such a telltale sign of fucking shitty fans and a shitty team that you're gonna bitch about shit like that. Maybe it's because we've been from the worst franchise in fucking 60 years, but like I'm not. We never have gotten those calls, so I'm not gonna fucking bitch about it. Like even the like the chase catch in the back of the end zone, which I know you don't feel this way, Jack, because I saw you commenting with James Ham about that shit, but. That was clearly a catch to me. He had possession, had 2 feet down, and then the ball was knocked out. That's a touchdown. It doesn't matter if the ball was knocked out. But I'm not.
I agree.
It got overruled. They didn't count it. I said, you know what? Fuck that. In my eyes, we're up 4 more points, but it is what it is. Let it go.
I agree. My point with that is, by rule, like you have to control to the ground. So I get why they overturned it. My point is, 9 times out of 10, when it's called a catch on the field and it's not irrefutable, they let it stand. That was my beef.
Yeah.
It wasn't a catch by definition, but they called it one. And but like you said, on the replay, he has 1 foot down, the ball comes loose. Then he gets 2 more feet down with established the ball is in his arm again. And then he goes to the ground again and the ball jars loose. But he had 2 feet down, pushed out of bounds, and makes contact with the ground that goes out.
Yeah.
Right. So I get it. It's one of those things I was like, technically I get it, but I've seen too many of those calls go Tom Brady's way or Patrick Mahomes' way, and that's where I'm coming with it. Like, I'm not a big conspiracy theorist. You know, I'm not a big NFL's rigged kind of guy. But I'll tell you what, if I was running in the NFL's PR, I would be really worried and concerned about how people think about the integrity of the NFL these days because it's getting worse and worse. It's getting every year. It's getting worse and worse.
Shit. Let's actually break that down a little bit because we had this conversation a little bit about with my buddy Sigmund and Tibbs and some of the other people that we were hanging out with at Drew's house this past weekend, and we were talking. You know, the question got raised: is the NFL scripted? And I kind of am under the assumption that like it's not scripted. Like it'd be too hard to get things to work out the way that they needed to with 22 men. And exactly like you said, the players are not going to be able to get on board. There's too much. There's too much.
Justin Herbert signed up for the 27-0 script.
There's too much. No. There's too much money. There's too much sportsmanship. These dudes have been working their whole lives for it. They're not just going to fucking lose or whatever. But the NFL definitely does have their preferences. And the NFL will do what they can to fucking make sure that those preferences are met. Now, it doesn't always affect every single bit of the game, but, you know, NFL referees are paid by the league, so you're probably going to see a couple calls that go one way or go the other way. You're probably going to see some things like, you know, the game against Buffalo gets canceled. We have to go for a coin flip. They get a neutral site if they make it to the AFC Championship game, which didn't fucking happen. But they're just stupid shit like that. Atlanta. So, I mean, do you guys have anything to add to that?
I would add... I'm kind of with you on it. There's no way the players are buying in. You might get a player here or there who's struggling, who doesn't make a lot of money, who like maybe like would consider, and because like historically that has happened in you know college and
so much money.
It's happened where people like make those mistakes and get caught. Where I sit with it is like you said, the refs are paid by the league. The refs, I honestly think every single year there should be a recap of every ref team and every ref as an individual, the bad calls they made. And there should be almost like a probe into them. Like, do they have allegiances swayed one way or another? Are they gambling? Because you're not supposed to gamble. You know, like these are things that should be looked at because it's very likely that there is a ref here or there who is betting through a family member or something and making money. And those things, you know, and they happen.
And so we saw like 3 or 4 calls in the regular season where like a weird roughing the passer call, all of a sudden ball game, and it's not rigged. Like there's no way it's rigged completely, but on plays like that and on any given play you can throw a hold, on any given play you can throw a pass interference flag.
Oh yeah,
it can definitely be influenced.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it.
Now here's another,
especially on plays like that.
Here's another point that we kind of made because you know some people brought up what you guys are talking about, but with the NBA, with that what was his name, Donahue or whatever, you know,
Donahue.
Yeah, Donahue, the guy who was fucking shaving points for fucking these 2 guys, and he was making money. It's up in the air how much money he was making compared to the other people. But I was like, well, here's the thing about the NFL. If they just get willy-nilly with the flags and start throwing it over and over to a point where they can change a game like that, people are going to take notice and people are going to bitch about that. In a sport like basketball, you can straight up rig a game through refereeing.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
You can
Oh,
straight.
yeah.
There's just it's so much more fast paced. There's so much more calls. Refs,
Especially with hand
refs
checking
get
being
down
gone.
when you get down to the last 2 minutes of a game. Refs can definitely have an impact of that game because they can put whoever they want on the foul line. And that's how you win close games. If you're playing someone like the NCAA tournament come up in March or whatever, if you don't have a team that can shoot free throws, then you're not going to go anywhere in the fucking tournament. And
Or have a point guard.
when you have the ability to put who you want to on the line, it's so much easier. So
Yeah.
that was one of the things that I kind of did. So I mean, the NFL is super competitive. Definitely have their preferences. They're gonna protect their assets,